The lineup we have will in fact do that. Yesterday's Torah reading, Lo selech rachil ba'amecha, lo samod al dam reyecha. The sentence in the Torah said, don't spread falsehoods, don't stand on or ignore your brother's blood or your brother's suffering. This is part of the work of Stand With Us, an Israel advocacy organization dedicated to challenging and rebutting those who defame the state of Israel. This past year, Stand With Us was a key player in preventing the Seattle bus system from displaying anti-Israel propaganda. And to tell us all about it, please welcome the regional coordinator for Stand With Us in New York, Avi Posnick.
Good morning. Can everybody hear me? Okay. My name is Avi Posnick. I'm the regional coordinator for Stand With Us, and I just want to start with a quick story. This story was actually told at a Christians United for Israel conference by Malcolm Hoenlein a few years ago. So David Bragg from Christians United for Israel, I apologize that you're going to hear the story again, and I hope I tell it right. There was a man who wanted to join a monastery. And he goes to the chief monk's office and he says, I want to join the monastery. I want to accept all restrictions, anything you want me to do, I'm willing to do. And he said, no problem, we'd love to have you. We have one rule. The rule is that you're allowed 2 words every 5 years. He says, no problem, I'm willing to do it. So for 5 years, he's studying and he's doing penitence. And after 5 years, he's summoned to the chief monk's office and the chief monk says, you've completed your first cycle, you're entitled to your 2 words. And the guy says, bad food. 5 more years, he goes through the same cycle, and again he's summoned to the chief monk's office, and again he's told, you completed your 2nd cycle, you're entitled to your 2 words, and he says, hard bed. 5 more years again, we go through the same thing, again he's called to the office, and he's told, you're allowed 2 words, and he says, miss television. 5 more years, he completes his 4th cycle, it's now been 20 years that he's there, and he's summoned to the chief monk's office, and the chief monk says, you've completed your 4th cycle, you're entitled to 2 words. The man says, going home. Chief monk says to him, it's no wonder you've nothing but complain since you got here. I find that when it comes to Israel, we always have something that we can complain about. There's always something that makes us upset. But I'm hoping that after I'm done and after this wonderful conference is done, that we'll learn and we'll be empowered to actually make a difference about the things that we might be upset about. 10 years ago, in May of 2001, when Stand With Us began in Los Angeles, it was during the beginning of the Intifada. The Intifada was in full swing. We saw the skewed coverage of Israel. Many times the media was leaving out a lot of the context that would have portrayed the issues very differently. We soon learned that the same situation was brewing in communities and in particular on college campuses. When we saw that anti-Israel events and speakers were happening on a regular occurrence on college campuses, you had professors who were also joining in the fray, comparing Israel to apartheid, saying that Israel was committing human rights abuses. And since today is the day when Yom HaShoah, when the Holocaust is being commemorated, I'll talk about how professors have also compared, and not just professors, but speakers and organizations have compared Israel to the Holocaust. That Israel's actions towards the Palestinians was the same thing that took place in Nazi Germany. And one such professor, a man named William Robinson, who was a professor, I believe, in University of California, Santa Barbara, sent an email out to his class. And the email, you had 2 rows of pictures, 2 columns of pictures. On one side, you had pictures of of Jews being lined up in the concentration camps. And on the second side, you had Palestinians being lined up at checkpoints. You had Jews sitting next to their parents who were killed, and you had Palestinians sitting on the rubble of their houses. This was an email that a professor sent out to his class. You had another tour of 2 Holocaust survivors and 2 anti-Israel activists that were going around saying, the tour was called Never Again for Anyone, and they were saying that what Israel is doing to the Palestinians is exactly what the Nazis did to the Jews. This is something that continuously happens on college campuses. But when Jewish students go to campus, they're not expecting to have to defend their beliefs, have to defend their identities. Israel is not even something that's often on their radar. They're there to go and get an education. They're there to go and learn. Many Jewish organizations weren't prepared to respond to what was going on when the Intifada came out. This was the vacuum that Stand With Us came in to fill by providing the facts, by providing education. And we feel that education is the road to peace. By providing the tools through booklets, through speakers, through films. This is how we're helping students make a difference, providing them with the support that they need. When many students go to college campuses, it's like they're like a deer in the headlights. They're not expecting it, and they don't have the support many times from groups that are on campus or even outside of campus. So this is something that we try to do, try to help them build coalitions, work with other organizations, Jewish and non-Jewish, in order to help them tell Israel's story. One of the things that we've seen now is that the situation has changed dramatically. They're in two ways, for the good and for the bad. The bad in that the anti-Israel groups are better funded, more organized, more aggressive. They're expanding their efforts, but the good news is that they spawned a backlash within the pro-Israel community of people who want to make a difference. Students who Israel had not been a priority for them before have really evolved into campus leaders and have a commitment now to lead the efforts on their campuses, and many of them are now working for other organizations. One of the things that have happened, we've seen pro-Israel groups form on college campuses where there have been hostile environments, whether it's University of California, Irvine, where Israeli Ambassador Michael Oren was heckled last year, Columbia University. In fact, we've had many events taking place on Columbia, and our Emerson Fellow there has worked to build coalitions with other organizations and other groups on campus to really make a difference. And we've seen the tide turn. When an mock apartheid checkpoint was put up in the center of the college campus, you had the pro-Israel students who were calling for dialogue, who were saying we can disagree, but we need to create an environment where we can talk to each other. And it was the anti-Israel group, the Columbia Students for Justice in Palestine, who said, we're not interested in dialogue, we're not talking to you. The student newspapers reported on how it was the pro-Israel community that wanted dialogue, and it was the anti-Israel groups that were against dialogue and that were promoting this hatred on the college campuses. When the divestment resolutions took place in University of California, San Diego and University of California, Irvine, both divestment resolutions were defeated, and the student presidents, the student government leaders who were deciding on whether it should be accepted or not accepted, they were the ones that said this does nothing to promote peace and it only divides our campus. And we've seen this happen over and over again, that people, students, pro-Israel groups on campuses are building coalitions, they're reaching out to their student leaders and making a difference on their campus. But this is something that has also taken place beyond the college campuses. We've seen this take place in community forums where Israel is made a pariah. We've seen this through trade unions. We've seen this through bus ads. We saw this in California when an Israeli ship was picketed. The dock workers went out to the dock at 5:30 in the morning and they refused to unload an Israeli ship that was coming to dock there. I believe what actually happened in the end was that the Israeli ship was delayed and it was a Japanese ship that they didn't unload. But the point of their protest was to make the Israeli ship stay out there for 24 hours and make Israel a pariah. One of the things that we did was that we went to the head of the dock workers union and we said to them, why are you boycotting Israel? Why are you doing this? Can we come and talk to you? And they said, sure, no problem. Our director of education who's also a professor at University of California, Irvine. She went up to speak to them. She also brought one of the people from the Federation, and I believe someone from one of the local Israeli consulates. And when they got to the head of the union, there were 35 people in the room, and when they heard that there was someone from the Federation and someone from the consulate, there was almost a near riot. They said, we're not having an Israeli come to speak to us, we're not having a Jew come to speak to us. They said, the professor can come in, and she has 5 minutes. She was there for an hour and a half, presenting the case, and they said this was the first time that someone from the pro-Israel community has come to talk to us and tell us their side. And when we learned from here is that we need to be there. The other side is continuously reaching out to these people and continuing to try to get them to support the anti-Israel narrative. We mentioned before the bus ads that were trying to go up in Seattle last year. There was a group that was trying to put up bus ads in the Seattle metro system that said Israel was committing war crimes and that we should stop funding aid to Israel. One of the things that StandWithUs did was that we quickly mobilized our people in Seattle, our people in the United States, and people around the world. We worked with Jewish groups, non-Jewish groups. One of them also was Christians United for Israel, and we thank them for helping to generate thousands of emails and phone calls that really helped to turn the tide, that got the Seattle bus system to not put up the ads. One of the reasons that we told them that we don't want these ads to go up is that it could disrupt service, especially in Seattle, a place where there have been attacks against the Jewish community. There was an attack against the Jewish Federation in Seattle. We felt that this could disrupt service and could cause harm to Jews. The King County, which is the county that was overseeing these buses, where the county that these bus system fell in, had no idea why these ads would be so controversial. They had no idea that this would generate such a backlash against the bus system. We realized again that there's a lot of work to be done. There's more education that needs to be done for both students as well as community leaders and groups all over the country. One more issue that we've also noticed is that free speech has been used against the pro-Israel community. The people that wanted to put up these ads felt that their free speech was being taken away from them by the pro-Israel community. The students who heckled Israeli Ambassador Michael Oren and who have heckled other Israeli diplomats and pro-Israel speakers all over the world say that they're using their right to free speech to shout down these speakers. And one of the things that we always have to tell them is that your free speech, your right to speak, doesn't trump my right to free speech. Right now, your job is to listen, and when you want to speak, there's time for Q&A. One of the things that we always tell people is that you have to fight fire with fire. The pro-Israel, the anti-Israel groups on the college campuses and in communities are throwing fire at us, they're igniting the fires, and we have to be there to fight fire with fire. We can't just ignore it, we can't just sit by and say it'll go away if we just support them. We have to fight fire with fire, we have to be more aggressive, we have to be in their faces. And this is something that StandWithUs, through our materials, through our speakers, through our programs, is continuously educating communities around the world, giving them the tools, giving them the empowerment that they need in order to fight these fires and actually make sure that the fires are not lit in the first place. We want to be proactive, which is actually one of the most successful forms of advocacy, is not just reacting and waiting for the fire to be lit, but making sure that we're there before the fire is lit, before the students get to the college campuses. And this is something that we will continue to do for years to come, and we'll continue to work with all the other organizations, including the Baltimore Zionist District, Christians United for Israel, and other organizations that are an integral part of the pro-Israel community. Thank you.
Good morning. It's a real pleasure being here for the second Israel Symposium. My name is Milana Isaacson, and I'm a member of the BZD Advocacy Committee. I'm very honored to welcome and to introduce Natasha Moskovaya, who is